first thing that comes to mind when it was your first retreat, right?
Yeah, it's the first retreat. What does come to mind? Oh gosh, now I'm like blank. I just really enjoyed it. I guess the thing is I had just such positive memories of the retreat. It was a very rushed experience, as in I was just sitting out at this place that we ended up having the retreat at in July. And my friend and I that I did the retreat with had always wanted to do a spring or fall retreat. And we were giving ourselves the next year to do it. But I was sitting out there in July and thought, I bet we could pull this off by November. So that's my, we did a very microwave version of it. It was fast.
That's like
You,
4 months, right?
yeah, yeah. But it feels short when it's the first thing you've done and you're still teaching and doing your day job. It was just this wide open door we went through, not really knowing what we were doing. Um, but yeah, but I think it's nice. I think it's good that we just didn't give ourselves actually all that time to plan because it was a pretty intimate group. I mean, it was like 8 people. We knew it was going to be small for the first one. So it was good. So I guess I just have a very touching, like good memory of a very nice, cozy fall retreat that was done very quickly. All right, good. Had a little
Wardrobe.
makeover. Yay, second chances. Like, yeah. All right, good. I'm good.
Now we're just gonna go from you telling your story and then boom, you got a ponytail.
It's like, I know.
So, sorry, you were saying that you just got right into it and it took you like 4 months and it was good. You had all the good vibes. How long had you been a yoga teacher before you did this retreat?
Um, 6 years, 6 years. Yeah. So I've been teaching in studios for quite a while, some community events, but not a retreat. But I'd been on a few, so I was very inspired to try to have a hand in doing my own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. So, let's see, I'm going to use the questions to help me out. Or what did I put those together for a reason. Oh, there's so many here.
There's a
So,
lot.
yes. I asked those. Yes. What were your first? Okay, so this is a big one. So I asked you, was this your first retreat? And it was. And you mentioned you were glad that you got right into it. How would you address, now that you have, those fears of just jumping in there and actually doing it when you don't know what you're doing or who's gonna go or if it's gonna work out? Like, what do you do to move beyond that?
I guess like now knowing what I know about what I've done, kind of that. Um, you just have to trust yourself. I think that's the biggest thing I even learned about this too, is that, you're going to do a lot of marketing, you're going to do a lot of one-on-one either connection or maybe some group things. You're going to start to figure out how big your network is. And especially if you've been teaching for a while, trust that it's there. I don't think I really trusted that people were going to want to show up, people were going to see me outside of the studio, which is one thing that I really wanted to do, is to provide an experience outside of the studio for people, something that was longer. And so then I wouldn't worry about all the details as much. I mean, there's details to worry about, but I wouldn't have that hesitation, because I think you have to rely on, all the teaching that you've been doing, the connections that you made, the community that you created, and that people will come, people will be interested. And it's not
Yeah.
everybody. Don't try to freak yourself out that you want everybody to come, because that's not going to happen. But your group that wants to do that with you in a cozy space they'll make their way to you. So
And 8 is a great number. I think 8 is a good number.
it was good. It was good. It actually got up a little bit higher because we ended up doing a day pass, because since it was a hour and a half, it was actually pretty easy. And some people said, hey, I could come Friday, but I can't stay Saturday. One person, you know, had the opposite. So we're like, all right, we'll just split the room up. But throughout the day, it just kind of somehow worked out to we had 10 people. Oh, and I think someone came and just couldn't stay at all. So it was nice to have some flexibility there, and not going past 10 was nice. It felt controllable for us, and it just wasn't this massive event. It was almost like you're hosting a dinner party for 48 hours.
That's really
So,
smart to have these day passes so you're not just, you have people coming in and out. And I guess that's the benefit of doing it locally versus internationally. And I know that there's a lot of people, myself included, like the first retreat I ever did was in Mexico.
mm-hmm.
Granted, I was living in Mexico when I did it, but I was relying, like you said, on the community that I had built in Miami. So I was trying to like bring everybody over, and that proved to be very difficult, right? Because I mean, there's a plane involved, and so do you think doing it locally was a much better, like a great way to start?
I think it was good for the first time. And I did have some people that I knew in different states that, were interested. The weekend didn't work out for them. But I think it was easier for us to get interest by being one-on-one with people, because we did a few events where we co-taught some classes together. And so that was nice. People could see us working and interacting with each other. We did some fun things, and the people were more accessible. I guess that's the best way to say it, is people were a lot more accessible versus, you're just communicating either through socials, maybe a text, maybe an email. It felt a little bit more personal for that size of a group to do it locally. I would love to do it internationally. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the thing that we learned too is that there's what people will say they'll do and then what they actually do. So
Oh yeah.
it's like, yeah, I want to go to Mexico. And so it's like you said, the obstacles start to come in the way for people. So we wanted the least amount of friction there could be for the first time.
Yeah. And so just because you mentioned it, what were some of the things that you learned?
Oh gosh. I learned that I don't want to have to do anything with food ever. I'm just kidding. Find a place that someone cooks all that food for you. That was, and actually my partner handled the food. I didn't even really handle the food, but it felt a little all consuming. I learned that there's a lot of operational pieces in it, and you really have to carve out the space for you to be a teacher and for you to show up and for you to be present as a teacher, because that started to get lost a little bit in it, because you're just wearing so many different hats. And I learned having a good partner really makes a difference if you're going to do it with a partner. I don't know if I would want to do my first one on my own. It was a lot of work, but having a partner that I could really trust, and we had the same vision, we were able to trust each other's decisions, really, really helped. You have to have a lot of good communication and transparency if you're going to do a partnership with someone, so that is not an issue at any point in time during it, because there's so many other things to deal with. So it's a few that come off
Yeah.
the top of my head.
And also to like the piece about the partner, it's like, especially if you're splitting up tasks and then you are just on it with all of yours, and then you look over and you're like, it's not being as on it on the other side. You start to
Right.
freak out and feel
Right.
like,
Right.
you're here, but you're really not pulling your weight, kind of thing. That sucks to be in that
Right.
situation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, thankfully I did not have that at all. And we even had very honest moments of, thank you for getting your stuff done, vice versa. Because you just have to divide and conquer and trust that whatever decision they're making in that moment is the best one, and it supports what you both want to do. You don't want to go from being yoga besties to not.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to enjoy the retreat. Once we got there, we wanted to enjoy each other and enjoy that as well. So you almost have to really make a pretty hard call right in the very beginning if you have the right partner. So.
And what about control? I'm just going to put myself out there.
I'm probably right there with you. I'm pretty sure.
I like I like to have the things in order. And how how did you experience like releasing some of that control? Like you said, trusting the person that you're with and just knowing that they're making the best decisions and that you're not always going to be in control of what those are, and it's okay.
Right. I think something that helped is we agreed to having weekly meetings for about 2 hours every week. And so we had just such good check-in points with each other. And if anything popped up, we felt so comfortable talking to each other about it. So I felt like we maybe never really released, well, I guess the control never really came up because we were just in good contact with each other. And we just had a cadence of, we're going to tackle this month, this week, this month, and just follow through that. I do have, I'll admit, a lot of project planning in my background, so spreadsheets were made. So I know I'm singing your language, so your song. So it that helped. That helped, and I think you just have to play to each other's strengths too, because being the person who creates reels and gets all the content and all that was not my jam. I learned how to do a reel like a year ago today. So,
I was this
you,
years old when I learned.
yeah, it was exactly. And I thought, wow, this took 8 hours of my life. It didn't, but it was close. So, so I leaned into the operational pieces that I felt comfortable with, and my partner leaned into more of the creative pieces that she felt comfortable with. And, I loved, I mean, she came up with this idea too of getting donations from local vendors to put in the goodie bags for people. That would not have been me knocking on people's doors and saying, gimme, gimme. But it was great because we just really had that moment of realization of we can release some of that control because we're both playing to what we're really good at. And I kind of almost don't have any business trying to control that because you're just so naturally good at that part of it. So
That's
that
good.
helped.
And what was the most, well, I'll save that for a little bit later. Let's talk
Okay.
about promoting. How did you promote? What are all the ways that you promoted it?
Yeah. Well, socials was a way, email lists that we have. I have a website, promoted on that, and um, one-on-one talking to people. We teach at studios, so we were able to talk to people at studios as well. That was really the breadth of the venue. I mean, of the outreach that we used. I don't know where that word came from, but that that's the breadth of what we did. I was thinking in my head that I wish I would have done, just like in hindsight, learning that we would have found some local places maybe to put up a poster or flyer, go to some local yoga studios because we weren't connected specifically at doing it sponsored by a yoga studio. So we could have gone there and done those things. Because socials get limited. Again, you have your network, we considered, do we pay for an ad or something? Eventbrite would have been a good thing to do. We weren't using WeTravel, and I don't know if I should plug anything or not. I'm not getting anything from talking about WeTravel. I'm kidding.
This is not
I'm not.
sponsored.
It's not sponsored. But that was helpful because people are going to go to that site looking for yoga retreats anyway. That would have been a helpful thing, and that's what we're preparing for our next retreat. So, yeah, so it was socials, emails, in person. But we realized there were probably a few more places we could have done after the retreat was over. But that worked. It got us our 8.
So from the stuff you did do, what was the most successful?
I think that went on the in person. It was also the most time consuming, but it was helpful because you learn the people who read email and don't. Um, Socials, it can just be a blur, and then it gets annoying also. We had to really put a cadence around how much we wanted to be in people's spaces about it, what was the right content that we wanted to put out each week. But again, it's just you're going to cap it at how many people you have that are looking at your socials. So, and my email list was only so many people as well. So the in-person helped to just get in there with the people that maybe we had connected with and just bring it home. So would be harder if the retreat is larger. That's why WeTravel would be better to reach more people that maybe we didn't even know. Yeah. So.
And what kind of retreat was it?
It was nice. It was by a lake in the fall. So that's what we wanted, something that with the changing of the seasons helps with all the theming and everything. And so we did outdoor yoga, had these little cottages, and um, yeah, it was a also another little wrinkle to it is it was, how do I put it? I don't know how we marketed it, but it was more for like couples, partners, really good friends because the rooms were double occupancy, single bed. So we were, that really kind of helps you narrow in on the people that you're trying to get interested into this retreat as well. I don't kind of know where I was going with that direction, but that helped mean that we really wanted to be cozy. Mostly people were going to get to know each other, or they were going to come with someone that they knew. So yeah, but it had nice, lovely amenities. It was at a place that they host a lot of different events and weddings. So it had pickleball, it had kayaks, it had a hot tub, it had a pool, it had all little games around the yard, hammocks, fire pits. It was. I loved how all inclusive it was because then people could just come to the lake and chill out. So
Yeah. So it was mostly like yoga and relaxation.
yes, yes. Now I understand what you're asking me. It was yoga. And we did some meditation. We did some nidra, different types. So some were a little bit more gentle. I mean, different durations of classes. So maybe a 30-minute meditation. Our peak class was 2 hours. Had some night meditation, some night nidra. So those were a little bit shorter because we don't want people to also get kind of overdoing the yoga, and everything was voluntary. But sunrise, sunset. So it was nice. We did a lot of different timings and variations of it. But um,
Yeah,
those
so
were the those were
how
two.
was the programming? Like how many activities did you how long was it? How many days?
It was it was a Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday until about noon. So almost 2 days.
Okay. And
So
how
good.
many things were
Did we
going
do?
on?
Um, well, the first night, I'll walk you through very quickly my timeline. So Friday was like arrival, meet and greet, food, snacks, appetizers, cocktails. And then we had a nice little fire pit. Yeah. Yeah. We had a nice little fire pit and an overview of what the day was going to look like for people that night, but really kind of wanted them to just kind of get in, meet each other, and chill. The next morning was meditation. We did our breakfast, then we had a longer yoga class. Then they had free time. Since there were so many amenities, we wanted people to be able to have about 3, 4 hours. And it was funny because I was stressing out about, is the hot tub heated? Is the pickleball stuff out? Am I pushing my kayak in the water? And most people just took a nap. I was like, okay. But it was fine. That's what they needed. I loved it. It was actually really, really peaceful moment while everybody was just napping and resting. And then we had I think we had another like quick gentle yoga class, and then we had a community dinner, which I really loved. It was also a cost saving strategy as well because we didn't have on site anyone to do the food for us, and there was only so many delivery opportunities or like things that were available to us. So there were fire pits and grills outside, so we had people bring their own food and just have a very communal dinner. So we did that. And the next morning, meditation, breakfast, yoga, and everybody was on their way. So it was pretty simple, pretty straight to the point. The differences were in the type of yoga that we offered. So,
Okay, that sounds really nice. Did you hear any, like, was there any specific activity that you got a lot of positive feedback on, or was it just everything overall?
people like the partner yoga class. So, because that's what we did. That's what we did before dinner is we had a partner yoga class, and you can do some really fun things. It's a little more open, a little bit more casual, because you're laughing and kind of playing with your partner, trying to get in different
Yeah.
shapes. You're supporting each other in different ways. So that's the one we got the most positive feedback on. People really enjoyed that because it's different. You're not doing partner yoga every day in your
Yeah.
classes. So that's what we liked. And the dinner. I think those were the two. Those were the two highlights that people liked.
Yeah, the napping tends to happen a lot too. I remember on the few retreats that we did where we had that gap and I was also running around like a chicken without a head and
Yeah.
everybody was just fast asleep and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's
I
fine."
know. I was like, is this the moment where they're napping, so I should be napping too? I don't know. And I didn't know where to go. The hammocks were taken, like everything was taken. My partner was sleeping in the room, and so I'm like, I guess I'll just sit outside and sleep on this lawn chair
Yeah,
in my own little quiet space. But
exactly.
it was nice.
Your moment to decompress.
Yes, yes.
Let's see. We haven't talked about pricing yet. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to mention about that? Like how you approached pricing your retreat, or any unexpected cost that you didn't factor in initially, or any advice you would give around budgeting?
Yeah. Um, I mean, there's going to be the fixed cost of what the place gives you. I mean, you can negotiate a bit, but we kind of worked with our fixed cost of that, put a budget around food, and we had an idea of how much we wanted to charge people. Let's just say I'm going to be very transparent that we were hoping to at least make lunch money off of this one because it was our first one. We knew, like, all right, we're going to learn a lot on this first one, and the next one will actually um, probably have a bigger financial gain from it. It was a little higher than I think we wanted, but we really liked the place. I mean, the cost, the fixed cost from the venue that we chose, that was a little higher than I think we wanted. And we also wanted ours to be very accessible. We wanted people to, I did think that maybe we put things in our head, as in it's an hour and a half away, it's 2 nights. Are people really going to pay X amount of money that we really want to charge where we would really make money? So we were a little bit more conservative with what we charged people. So we ended up probably not making as much as we would like. The costs that came up that were unexpected were tiny, tiny things, like we made little s'mores kits for people. So, you're running to the store, getting that type of stuff. But again, my partner did a lot of donations, which was really helpful. But there were just more like material costs. Honestly, at the end of the day, it was probably like $100 of extra stuff. It really wasn't that much. We did have to tip the caterer. That was probably a little bit more than we expected we were going to do as well. But it wasn't like something came out of the air that was $1,000 or something. We were pretty close with that. It's just that our base cost was pretty high. So I think you just have to make a really good decision there. And that's where the day passes came in. We were able to get a little bit extra by not having people spend the night and having people come in, and it's almost like pure profit. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
so what would you do differently then? Like, would you price it higher? Would you try to go for a more economical venue? Would you give yourself a cushion, like a petty cash section where you're like, okay, we're gonna have to tip people, we're gonna have to run to the store for stuff.
All those
Yeah,
things. All those
yeah.
things. Yes, yes. You have to, yeah. I think we just, again, like I was going back to that trust piece, you just really have to trust that you're going to put it out there, and the people that are willing to pay that amount will find you. They will sign up for it. You don't have to cut cost everywhere. So, and as much as we loved that location, it was it was a bit higher than we wanted to spend. But so we definitely looked at different venues for the next time that we would host one, where we were able to get more of the things for less of a cost. So you just have to make those hard calls where you could fall in love with it. It's gorgeous. It seems amazing. But at the end of the day, you're not going to make any money out of it. So you just have to make a hard call, or just swallow that pill and say, that's going to be fine for me. So that was a
And
one-time thing for us, one time. We will not do it again. Yeah.
but charge more. Israel was telling me about this. I don't know if it's called a gap, or it's called, I don't remember what it's called, but basically it's this space where people, a number, like a price, where people don't buy. It's like a ghost spot.
Mm.
And so I think it's like between 1,000 and 5,000, where you're better off just making it 5. I can't remember what the
Mm-hmm.
gap is. Maybe I can put a link to it here once I find that and we can just have it on the video. But I find that to be interesting, like psychologically interesting, especially when I think about what I am attracted to myself. I notice that there's this area where I almost think, oh, well, if it's this price, it's probably not that good. You know what I mean? And if it's this price, I'm like, okay, that's more than I was expecting, but it's probably really good, and I'll pay it.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That was probably the hardest decision that we had to make was the pricing. And then I'm not a financial person as in my profession or a big mathematician. So I just kind of just went with my gut on that one, but would definitely, I agree. I think that ours was probably a little lower. So it was like, what am I going to get for that? And I think, again, we weren't, I think sometimes that just happens for yoga teachers in general. I don't know if we always ask for that value because the work that you're doing when you're there is nothing compared to the work that gets you there. You know, as in like any class that you give, you're always thinking of the class and you've done your sequencing, you've done your playlisting, all that type of stuff. And then hosting classes, the very end that people see. Same thing with the retreat. There was so much work that went behind it that I think we should have accounted for our time a little bit more there. I think we're focusing a little bit more on the amenities and probably should have paid ourselves a little bit more with our time for our time spent doing it.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this because I think this does happen a lot, and a lot of people in wellness sell themselves short. I think we're like collectively as an industry starting to realize that we self-sacrifice and we need to stop doing that because we're actually providing great value. I mean, the value that wellness and yoga teachers and just people in general in this space are helping you create better habits that translate to a healthier lifestyle, longer lifestyle, happier life. You know, all of those things are really important because the one thing you can, no matter how much money you have, I mean, you can do surgeries and, you know, hire really expensive doctors and things like that, but your health, there's not much you can do once it's down a road of no return. So teaching people how to live well and be happy and be healthy and chill, because I think the biggest issue, or like when you think about pills that we're taking other than diabetes and heart blood pressure things, is anxiety and depression medication.
Right. And that was one of our biggest goals too, was just to create an experience, one outside of the studio, let people see there's more to yoga beyond the asana, I guess you could say, and just give them the space to detach. And some people came really needed it. And it was nice to see that. It was nice to see that experience gave them the opportunity to do that. So you're right for sure.
Yeah. And even the sleeping, like that's a dead giveaway. I'm pretty sure if they slept like that on the retreat, it's because they haven't been sleeping. Like they haven't given themselves the space to just, you know, and you provided that space. And sleep is so important for the function of your body, your brain, your heart, the whole system.
And it's interesting because now even thinking about it, it's just why were all those amenities so important? Because it was almost like, yeah, we're going to go away, but we're still going to be busy. And it was just interesting to see that. Well, I mean, I think one person kayaked and maybe one person got in the pool. But after that, people are like, I'm in a hammock, I'm in my bed, I'm sleeping. So it just goes to show that you don't have to pack all that in for it to be valuable for people. So
yeah. Aho, as they say in the medicine circles. Okay, so what did you enjoy most about leading the retreat?
I really
And what was your
enjoyed,
favorite part?
yeah, the favorite part, it really was that moment whenever we had that community gathering that we had, and people were just being so creative with their cooking, and they were sharing and going back and forth and telling stories about their recipes. And, you know, when we talk about community and connection, those can be words we throw out, and it's just, what does that really mean? But it really was that. It was people opening themselves up and being vulnerable to share with people that they'd never met, or have a really nice, relaxed time with a partner that they came with, really trusting us, I think, to hold that space for them to do that. And it just turned into these really beautiful moments where I feel like we just got to sit back and watch people do that. And it was nice to not have to orchestrate it, to not control that for sure. Because in the beginning, there was one meal where it was a little like, oh, this should be interesting. All these different dynamics coming at each other. And we were like, let's just look away. They're adults. Everyone will handle it. It'll be fine. Everyone's feeling each other out. And so that community moment was nice, where it was just, okay, we've practiced with each other, we've laughed with each other, we've really let ourselves be open and be vulnerable. And I think it's just, you know, you think of taking that outside of yoga, off the mat, people decompressing, releasing, relaxing a little bit, and just being open to interactions with different people that they didn't know. So it was really nice. That was like, this was worth it all. A moment. That's what that moment was. It was worth it all.
Yeah, I feel you. I like those moments too. It reminds us, or reminds me of our humanity, you know, and a lot of what's missing in our society, because we just pass people on the street and don't give it a thought. But then we're in this environment where we can just be ourselves and relax and bring the walls down, and people act very surprisingly different in a very positive way. And that's so beautiful to see.
It was nice. It was nice. I hope some of them stay in touch. I don't know. But I think if they saw each other, I mean, we're in a small-ish community where it's not out of the ordinary to run into someone, you know, that you know, within a very small radius. So hopefully if they see each other, that I think that they would feel that connection, return back to that connection that they made.
So how do you maintain that sense of community and connection after the retreat?
That's a good question. Did not happen. Just be. Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's
hard.
funny. Yeah, it is hard. I mean, I think the only thing we did as far as after was a little outreach about feedback and, you know, just what was really great for you, what was meaningful, what would you advise us to do the next time. Would have been interesting to try a little something, especially since we're local here, and bring them together and say, hey, just for you all, we're going to do a special class. Let's bring you all back together. So noted for next time. But yeah, no groups or anything like that. I mean, we were a little low tech with what we were doing. I was just thinking, oh, we could have done a group chat, but we didn't do any of those things.
And even that stuff, like there's a lot of planning, preparation before, and then there's like operations management kind of thing during, and then afterwards putting systems and processes in place of like, okay, what are we going to do and how are we going to keep this going, and what's next? All of that is it takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work. It does.
At least to build at first.
It does. And I think that's the thing is, you know, for anyone who's starting out and just doing it, is, again, give yourself grace that you're building it, but also think that you're building a template. It doesn't mean that you won't change things the next time, but what is the marketing strategy? What does it look like, you know, the before, during, after of everything that you're creating? Yeah, I mean, maybe you save some spots. There's things that you would do over, some things that you would do differently, but start to create a bit of a template so you don't feel that you're starting from scratch. So next time, maybe you'll use different tools. Maybe some things will be a little bit different, but there will be a lot that you can keep. So yeah, I think that was a good learning. While it was very fast, we also did take some time to think about, all right, this is something we would do again. This is something we would keep. This is something we could come back to. Just kind of create your own plan of record, I guess you could say. So very formal for us yoga teachers. It's very formal.
That's okay. There's a lot of techie yoga teachers these days, or more structured, at least I'd like to think.
I agree. I agree. There's a lot that took like a corporate type of a jump of, into this land of sometimes making things up on the fly. So,
So what was the most challenging thing that you're like, I will never do this again,
oh my gosh, what was that?
except for renting that place, other than
Yeah,
renting that
I
place?
know. Oh gosh, what would I never do again? I think this is going to seem very small, but I would never be in charge of the food again.
Oh yeah, you did mention that.
It took up so much time that I feel like I could have been with people. That's not the most
Were you
magnificent,
cooking?
magnificent. No, I
Were you
wasn't
cooking?
cooking.
Oh.
My partner was teaching, and so I was the one like receiving them and setting things up and getting all that. And so I felt like I missed out on some things. And so that's where like someone else doing that would have allowed me to be more present. So did you get it?
Mosquito, sorry. I had to
Okay,
get
it's
it. It
okay.
was,
It's
it was
okay.
after me.
It's okay. Um, it was just that. So you could insert anything besides food. It kept me from being present the way that I wanted to be. So I would never choose to do something during the retreat that took me away from being the teacher once I'm there, being the teacher and the host once I'm there. The operational hat, I wanted to kind of come off once I got there. I wanted the operational hat all around it, but it felt like I had to do that here. So I'd want to take off the operational hat, put more of the host teacher hat on.
Yeah.
So, but I think also we were lucky. We didn't have huge snafus or challenges or things that came out of the blue. We had a lot of support from the people that hosted us at their property, which I think is a good thing too, is feel out that relationship. I knew from the moment that I talked to them that they were going to be so supportive. They were so excited. They were so welcoming. They donated bags for us to do the goodie bags. So they did a lot to be on call and to be helpful for and supportive of us because it was the first yoga retreat that they'd had there. So that helps. I think I would have just added the little extra of, okay, you took on a little bit more that you thought would be easy at the time, not thinking it's going to change your role once you get to the retreat. So,
Do you think that, because I mean, it's good to learn from the mistakes of others, but do you think there are some mistakes that you just need to make yourself?
I think so. I think so. And I think that the next time I decide to do it or whoever I decide to do it with, there will be more mistakes made. Nothing monumental. Everybody did yoga. We got paid. Everybody left refreshed. Like at the end of it, it was like everything turned out right. Um, but yeah, I think that there'll be more to make, and people, to your point, yeah, they're going to have to make their own. It's just preference, right? Maybe it takes certain experiences for you to change certain behaviors, such as the controlling, or maybe it helps you to get more organized. Maybe you aren't planning as much, because we actually spoke to another person who has a location we were looking at, and she's like, don't even be on a schedule. Tell them it's 8-ish. I had hives. That was not going to happen. I was like, not going to happen, woman. But it was good. Like I get it, but also it's just do what's authentic to you. And so if that time for you, it's authentic for you, and you learn a lesson about your behavior that maybe you didn't have to hold something so tightly, or you needed to show up a little differently, you'll learn it. You'll learn it. Nobody's harmed in the process of yoga.
Yeah.
Usually. So,
Well,
usually.
well.
Usually. In the idea of the process of yoga.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest lesson that we kind of keep coming back to is the financial piece. We would have given ourselves more credit for our value.
So what advice do you have for any yoga teachers who want to do a retreat? And I guess a sub of that is, should everybody do a retreat, or is it that some people shouldn't lead retreats?
Yeah, I think some shouldn't. Yeah, That's probably, I'll leave
Who
it at
shouldn't?
that.
Who
Some people
shouldn't?
should not. Some people should not. Should not. I guess. Well, it's just that there's a lot of hats. And if you're not willing to wear all those hats, you're not willing to maybe even take some time off, disrupt your schedule. You know, you can trust a lot, but you got to put in the work. So if you're not willing to disrupt your life for a few months, then no, I would not do that. Um, what was I going to say? Advice for yoga teacher. I think have a really good vision, because I think we kept coming back to our vision and our. So did that idea meet that vision? You know, again, we wanted it cozy. We wanted it to bring in and usher in the fall season. All that means as far as letting go. We had a huge theme around all of that, which comes with fall and that transition into that. So it was nice that whenever we were on the fence about a decision, we'd go back to that and it's like, does it fit into that? No. Okay, we can discard it. So if you have that solid kind of anchor you can keep coming back to, it'll help you to trust the decisions you're making. Otherwise, you could just be so influenced by what everyone else is doing and what you think that one person is. I mean, you're creating something that's authentic to you at the end of the day. I don't think I probably grasped that until I was in it, and maybe even after it, that this should be a reflection of me, or, and for my partners, a reflection of us. And yeah, some people are going to gravitate towards it, some people are not, but just try not to lose yourself in the process of whatever you're creating. Stick to your vision, just be very clear, because it's going to help with the marketing and how you communicate it, how you explain it to people. It's yours. You're not copying something from somewhere else. Sorry, that's a rabbit hole you could go down. It's like, what's everyone else doing? And look away. I'm just kidding. You don't have to look away. But I wanted to look at, I was able to get more clear on how we message some things. I didn't include as many details as I needed to the first time. But then after that, you just kind of, everybody's doing their own thing. You do yours.
And I think there is a place for grabbing inspiration from each
Mm-hmm.
other, but
Mm-hmm.
making it your own is
Right.
where I think a lot of people, they miss that part. You know, it's just a direct copy paste, and it's like, okay, look at something, say that's really cool, I'd love to do something like that, and then recreate it, but recreate it in a way that is you. Like maybe it smells different, it's a different color, using different textures, using, like, you know, put it in a different
Right.
space and be like, okay, it's the same but different, and it's obvious that it's
Exactly.
different.
Right. Right. I think there's some good, I guess you could say, legalese type of stuff to copy and paste from others, because I was like, refund policy? What refund policy? Let me go figure that out. You know, you just have to, you get in all those T's and C's. And so that helped to see, okay, what's the norm of what happens? You know, that's very detailed, very transactional. Um, but it was helpful for us to copy and paste those things. And then the fun stuff was ours, you know,
Yeah.
to create. So that's when, yeah, you
That's
make it yours.
that's a good point. The legal aspect of it, like all the liability waivers and things
Yes.
like that. I don't think any of the retreats that we originally, like the 4 retreats that we did in the past, we didn't do any of that. And thank God, nothing
I
happened.
know, I know, I know, I
But you know,
know.
you go into this thinking, oh, we're gonna relax, we're gonna breathe in the sunshine, and we're gonna hippie it out. Who needs that stuff? You know, nothing bad's gonna happen. But it is kind of important. Did you have waivers?
We did
That's good.
waivers, because it was at a lake, people were gonna kayak. It was in nature, so there were snakes. Saw one. There's a fox,
Oh,
deer, the
oh,
cutesy one. So, but still, you know, I didn't want to be on the hook for all that type of stuff. So it was just enter at your own risk. I mean, everything was docile, right? But still, you just got to cover yourself a bit. It's kind of how we have, or some yoga teachers have, insurance. So it just felt right to have that
yeah.
just in case. And waivers, we also took some pictures, I mean, and did a little video, but we were actually pretty mindful. We told them there was only one class that we were going to take a picture and one place we were going to video, but we were pretty mindful of not full on people's faces and stuff, because we also thought, just with our philosophy and approach, we'll use it for a bit of content, but we don't want people to feel they're coming here and being filmed the whole time. Like that's like, we're not being present if we're just constantly snapping pictures of you. We're like, we're going to do it at this one time for probably like 15 minutes and then we're done. So
Yeah, that's another really good point. You see, I don't even have to look at my questions. You're just bringing up all the goodies.
they'll just come into me. I'll just come into me.
Yeah. So I'm gonna on Monday, actually, today's Wednesday. So in a few days I'm gonna speak to my friend Alex, who's a photographer, and she has taken photos at retreats and events and festivals. And one of the things I'm gonna ask her is like, how do you do what you do in a way that's discreet and doesn't make people feel like they're being filmed? And that for me, also with the cooking, was the one thing that I was like, I never want to do this again, because instead of me being there and enjoying, I was playing photographer, and I'm not in any of the photos either,
Right. Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
doing all that stuff. And I wasn't even able to capture everything because I just can't do that.
No. And that's it. It kind of goes back to what I think I was trying to say before, is just that food was the topic, right? But it is, yeah. What are the roles you're taking on, thinking it'll be fine once you're there, but it means you miss a piece of being present at the retreat. So you just don't have to give yourself that hat. And you can make a deal with someone. I did try to actually get a photographer to come for the day, but it did not work out. But I wanted her to enjoy it. It was we were just going to do a trade. So I would probably explore a tiny bit of that. I don't have to do a trade for everything, but maybe do a trade for a couple of roles that I didn't want to play, and someone comes for the day and you can cut them a deal and just exchange services. Would be something to think about, especially for us for next time.
So what do you, going back to the photography of people feeling like they're filmed? So here's another perspective. Someone who is looking for a retreat to join, in your promotional materials, I'm gonna feel more like I have a window into what's going on there if I see lots of photos and video. But then, like you said, you don't want it to become this show, you want it to maintain its sense of sacred space. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing reels, I mean, they're not that long, right? So you don't need a ton of content for it. I mean, it kind of, for us, it was just a nice little scan of people, moving in a class, which, you could see that in a few moments. We didn't do a lot of people out relaxing and doing things. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I guess the balance of it was, we probably took about 10 minutes of content. It really wasn't that long. I mean, but it doesn't take that much for people to see, okay, people are out on a deck, outside, under trees, under lights, like doing a yoga class. So we did some other content up front that was showing the rooms, or we did content, my friend and I, doing some yoga poses, or we did a lot of the property before, well, as part of our marketing materials. I guess the hard part is, maybe it didn't dawn on me because we'd never done a retreat. So we had nothing. We didn't have any people. We had nothing. So we would have to use it for our next one. So maybe that's why I'm not answering the question very well. As far as balancing it, the first time was more like, here's the rooms, here's the place, here's the thing, here's all the stuff. As a recap reel, we did, here were some of the people doing some of the shapes, doing the poses. So I just feel like it was just such a quick moment that you got just enough of it. I think if someone did a 20-minute video or something of it, that might feel like a lot, or did the whole class. I guess you could do a time lapse or something. So I guess I'm just trying to think of my attention span on socials, like it's that whole 8 seconds, 30. You can put a lot in. That's fine for people to get the gist of it. I bet 30 seconds you could get a lot. You'd get the gist of it.
That's true.
Yeah. So.
That's true. I'm gonna go back to the questions here so we can start wrapping it up. But I want to make sure I didn't miss anything good. Well, I got you here. We did that. Um, I think we did everything. The only thing I would ask is what kind of feedback did you get from the people that attended, and do you plan to lead more retreats in the future?
Um, yes, as far as leading more retreats, it's going to be a bit though. It's going to be a bit. I just have some other things that I want to prioritize before I lead a retreat. So it's coming, but I've kind of learned that that spring fall cadence I was trying to put myself on was a little too much pressure when I looked at the bigger scope of everything I want to be doing and where I want to spend my time. So, but it's part of my strategy. Um,
So you think that maybe
I'm
once a
thinking,
year
yeah, I think
is,
once a
or
year is
every other
fine.
year?
Yeah, maybe actually probably every other year. I just agree to whatever you said. Every other year is probably fine. Like, just throw out whatever. I'll do that. No, every other year is probably fine. I don't know if spring's going to work out. We tried a spring one, and actually that's another one too. Just quickly, I know, and I want to come back to what you asked before. The first question. I was trying to answer the second one, thinking it'd be quicker. But we had to call our other retreat just in full transparency. We did. We were going to do one in April. Everyone's like, April, I couldn't make November. Please do April. Please do April. How many people signed up for April?
How many? People always
So,
say that. Oh, they're like, oh my God,
uh,
yes. Can you please put it on a Saturday? Can you please do it at 8 a.m.? Can you please do it at... And then they don't show. I don't know why
yeah.
they do that.
And honestly, everything else aligned. The cost was perfect. The food, everything we needed to be there was there. The distance, the people, it was perfect. But it just wasn't the date for people, and we didn't want to lose our deposit. So we just called it and just had, all right, we're going to have a piece of humble pie, and it doesn't always work out, and okay, let's call it instead of force it. And so I just want to be cognizant of that it's like you don't have to force it to the point of just stressing yourself out. We walked away before it cost us anything, so that was helpful. What was the other question? Why am I blanking on it?
The feedback. Is there any
Oh, the feedback.
feedback that...
Yeah, it was positive. It was really, really positive. A few call outs about the food runner not getting the coffee out on time. Just kidding.
For real?
Just kidding. Yes, really. I wasn't very cognizant of it because there's coffee in the room. And so I thought, oh, they probably got their coffee in the room. They're going to get their second cup, like with the breakfast and everything after. And people had wanted it. It's fine. I mean, if that's the biggest thing, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Um, some people wanted it to be closer. Wasn't a lot closer as a venue, so it's fine. They wanted it like 30 minutes away, there just isn't anything that accessible, but noted. People wanted something closer. That was kind of it. It was tiny things like that. There wasn't, anything about the length, the amenities, or like the activities that we had. But yeah, there wasn't a lot. I mean, out of 8 people, we weren't gonna get too much. I, I think one thing that we people hinted around, but we didn't really have maybe direct feedback on it was a little bit of the pricing for them. We did it opposite. This is probably going back to what would I never do again. I would never do this again. We made the decision as a partnership to do it this way, but wouldn't. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
You're like, please
Tell me.
tell me. Please tell me. You're like, enough prefacing. We discounted at the end, and we should
Oh.
have done early bird. We were just like, oh my gosh, we've got like empty holes. What would it take to get someone in there? Day pass, a little cut here, a little cut here. And that probably is not as respectful as we want it to be for the people who jumped in and paid full price up front, is what we realized after. It wasn't like we announced that to people, but I think just my little kind of moral like thought just didn't feel like that was probably the best thing to do. I would do, a good decrease if you want to do an early bird price. And that's also something we learned. Most retreats are going to do something early, but we made some cuts at the end just to kind of fill it up, if you will, which I don't think I would do that. Again, it just didn't feel right after the fact. So, yeah. I don't want to end on a
Okay.
somber note. What's something happy you can ask me? It's like, wow, we just like,
Okay, let's see. Let's see. I don't
what
know.
else? Um,
A
Let me
happy
think.
note.
Is there anything else? I don't know. I guess that's the last little piece of advice is enjoy it yourself too, right? You know, it seems like simple, but you can get really caught up that it's a job and it is a job. It is work. It's you're working, right? But to build that authentic connection you want with your community or people who wanted to build more of a connection with you, you know, they're going to sense all that, whatever we're holding on to. So find those spaces where you enjoy it. I would have built in some really significant rest time where maybe I disappeared and no one
Yeah,
could see me. I actually went on a yoga retreat where our retreat leader did that.
me too.
Um, you disappeared. Would you just like go
No,
hide
I
from?
didn't disappear. I went on a retreat where the leader disappeared. Like you wanted,
Yeah,
you're like, hey, where did so and so go? Just
yeah,
poof.
yeah, yeah. They were out, but then they surfaced at the times that they were supposed to surface, and it gave us more of a connection time with each other. It was fine,
Yeah,
you know. And also, it's just I would have felt like that would have been a lot of to ask for them to shepherd us through the entire thing. We're adults. We don't need to like have our hands held. But I should. I would put very specific things, and especially if you're with a partner, like maybe like tag team it. Like, hey, I'm going to be out. I'm
yeah.
hiding. I'm going somewhere else. I'm resting, just so you rejuvenate for the next thing you do. So
That's good
that's it.
advice.
Self
That's
care.
good
Self
advice.
care too. Yeah. All
Well,
right.
this was a very good talk.
I'm
Thanks
glad
for
it
being
was.
here
You are
and
so
accepting
welcome.
this invitation.
Yes. Well, thanks for asking my opinion and letting me like find my path to answers. As always.
They were really good answers. They were really, really good answers. I even learned from them, and I've done a few, and still there's so much. There's so much more to learn.
It's like the same, but so different every time, right? You do one. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay,
All
my
right.
friend. I will talk to you later.
Okay.
Sending
Bye.
you a big
See you
hug.
later. Big hug.
Bye.
Bye. See you.